Christopher's in New Hampshire, and he says hello. He's on Mad Dog Unleashed. Chris, welcome. Your turn. How are you today, pal?
Hey, Mad Dog. A long time, first time. I'm calling as a bitter Syracuse fan.
Okay.
Seeing how the FBI report named some of the biggest teams in the NCAA, do you think they're going to sweep it under the rug, kind of like the violations of UNC of the past? Or do you think the NCAA is actually going to take steps and actually put in some sanctions, even though there's going to be much money lost during March Madness?
Well, they're going to have to sit there and they're going to have to make the connection between the university and the agent, and the shoe companies. If the university says, I knew nothing about this, the kid, we thought we loved the kid. He came here. We didn't know he was getting paid by an agent, so don't look at us. So I don't know how the NCAA is going to prove that the team, the school, was sort of in cahoots with the nefarious characters that hang out at these AAU tournaments and everything else along those lines. So they're going to have to find that connection. They'll probably dig deep. They will probably rely on the FBI to do a lot of their legwork for them. That's what happened to Pitino. The FBI had, found a connection with Pitino with the $100,000 for Dozier. I mean, the FBI claims that Pitino knew about that and that was Vite involved. He denies it. We'll see how this plays itself out. But Louisville didn't want to take a chance, and they fired him. So I know they fired Pitino before they got fired by the NCAA. So we will see how this develops, Chris. It's way too early to say. There might be a lot of schools out there that could get in trouble. I don't know how serious. Again, when you are an organization, and good call, just in college basketball, that takes billions of dollars, as they do, from CBS and TNT to televise their big marquee event in March. They take, I don't know what the figure is. We can have Eddie look it up, what the price tag is, but they probably get about, I'm going to say they get about $500-600 million a year. I don't know what the actual contract is, but CBS couldn't afford to pay it. That's why they got the partner in TBS or TNT to help defray the cost. That's why CBS and TNT are in this together, because Sean McManus wasn't going to pay for this on his own. But that's a lot of money. That obviously helps a lot of the other programs that universities have in the NCAA. I mean, it props up the women's volleyball team, the men's polo team. I mean, which is not revenue producing. This is a big revenue producing event. It keeps all athletics afloat at a lot of these universities. So if you curtail the university from making a lot of money from their NCAA deal, and you take away the NCAA tournament, well, you're going to take away a lot of sports at these universities, because it's the crooked sports that really prop up the clean sports at a lot of campuses around the country. I'm not going to, the Louisville football and basketball programs that, listen, we don't like, probably prop up, the women's swim team that doesn't produce any money. So because of Title IX and everything's got to be equal, which is fair, we make sure that the basketball team wins, gets in the NCAA tournament, gets their piece of the pie, and because of that, we can have women's and other sports with men that aren't revenue producing. So it's all linked together. Here's Jay in Toronto. Jason, good afternoon. How are you today?
I'm good, Doggy. How are you, my friend?
Fine, Jace. Thank you. What's on your mind today? What do you have for me?
As far as I can see it, the main issue here is that these kids that are taking this money from the agents, which I don't see a problem with it at all. The thing is that those kids are going to make the NBA regardless. There's only so many spots every year that open up that these guys can play in. Okay. The bigger thing is all the other kids that are going to school. Okay. A ton of these guys come out of school way too early. They don't get a spot on the roster. They're out. Right. They don't have an education. They don't have nothing.
That's a good point. I mean, you're 100% right. The kid's got the free education, but all he wants to do is try to make an NBA team. He gets drafted by the wrong team. A lot of being successful for some of these players is getting on the right team. There's a lot of great players that, for whatever the reason, they were drafted by the wrong team. Their skill set doesn't fit the team. They don't like the coach. They get discouraged. They fall out of shape, and then 2 years later, they're on the streets. So without a degree. So and nothing to fall back on. So there is a lot of that. You're right. There's a ton of that. Go ahead.
Go to college for more than a year. And they come out way too early. what they should do is actually let the guys go right out from high school like they used to, who are going to make the NBA. Still have the draft, but mandate those players go the full 4 years. Okay, get something out of this education, go the full 4 years, and make a living, because you're not going to be worth a pile of dog. You know what, in the NBA anyhow.
I understand it's tricky, because who knows? The kid wants to has his NBA dream, and he doesn't want to be forced to stay in school. He's not interested. Now you can make an argument. They have changed the rules a little bit, where the kid has a little better feel of where he is in a draft if he decides to come out. I think they changed the date on some of those scenarios there in the spring, where you could delay, or maybe you can reach an agreement with an agent and then decide to come back to college if it doesn't work out. I think they have made some concessions to it. But again, your basic problem is simple. The kid who's the great player. And this is all about great players. It's not about the kid who's playing at Harvard. It's not the kid who's playing at Sacred Heart or at Vermont, or this is the great player. The great player here. This is a situation. It involves him, but the great player, he's got one goal. He wants to be, play for a living. So he's not interested necessarily in going to school, but he has to go to school because he has no other alternative. That's what this is about. The kid growing up has got his heart set on playing professionally, most likely in the NBA. Some of them go to Europe. Most likely in the NBA. He wants to make a living playing basketball. That's what he wants to do. And you know what? He's stuck because, A, he might not have any money when he's plying his craft in high school. So he takes money from an agent with the promise the agent gets it back. And then he goes to a school and does his thing. And hopefully he's good enough after 1 year to be drafted by the right team. He's a star. Remember, how many players in the NBA make it a year? There's 30-something teams. That's 32 guys, right? Maybe there's about 15 more who make it as a second-round pick. There's only about 40, 50 guys who make it in the NBA every year anyway, for crying out loud. We take a timeout 8 in front of the hour. Mad Dog Unleashed.